Three, two, one.
Light them up.
I'm Paul.
This is Buck.
This is the Paul and Buck Show.
Hey, the big Buckin deal. Here is download the latest app at paulandbuckshow.podbean.com. Okay, guys, we're back. The Paul and Buck Show, big Buckin deal. Of course, we're back. Today we got a special guest, and we're going to roll into a couple things to discuss what's going on this weekend. Big event in Taylor, Texas, the 28th Main Street Car Show.
Main Street Car Show.
Main Street Car Show. Today, again, we got a special guest. I want to introduce everybody to Jeff Snyder. How you doing, Jeff?
Howdy.
Fantastic, beautiful. From Taylor, Texas.
Yes.
Originally.
Right.
Of course, yeah.
Graduated Taylor High.
Oh man, awesome. We won't go into the year, so we'll just pass that.
Right.
So
That'd be fine.
No, so ultimately, right, what I had you in for is what we talked over the phone is to talk about a few things about the car show, and originally kind of want to talk about the history, right? Can you share a little bit about the car show, about what was the thought behind the show when you originally came out? And by the way, it's the 10th annual Main Street Car Show, everybody. So what was the thought of the car show going into what it morphed into now, of course?
Well, this is the 10th anniversary of the Main Street Car Show in Taylor. It's downtown. We close off about 16 city blocks.
16. Wow.
Yeah, the entire historic downtown district is completely blocked off just for the car participants.
So originally, man, that's huge. 16 blocks. I mean, if everybody's downtown Taylor, beautiful, right? Everybody come down. But was that ever imagined that you were going to go and have? I mean, we're talking like 800 cars, right?
Right, 810 I think was the official number last year.
Wow.
Yeah, the first year we had it was actually, I think, the first year of the Formula One race.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually called the Invitational. And because we wanted to kind of give something else to do for people that were coming through Taylor, and then going up over the bridge, heading down to the track, we wanted something that's
true,
a little local flavor for all the out-of-town people that were coming in for Formula One.
Okay. And Formula One, we're talking about the COTA, right? Circuit
of America,
Circuit of America in Austin. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that's what it originally was, an invitational.
Right. So the first year we thought, if we have 50 or 60 cars, we'll be doing good. Well, I think we had 160.
Wow.
So we were off to a good start.
That's a very good start, yeah.
But the first year, as we got closer and closer to the event, we're thinking, that might not be so good to be tied in with Formula One, because Bernie Eccleston doesn't like people infringing on his copyright. So the entire day, we were all waiting for somebody to show up and give us a cease and desist letter. So we were like, well, this might be a very short-lived car show.
So I'm assuming it got renamed.
Yeah, we renamed it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we dropped the invitational part and just left it as the Main Street Car Show.
Awesome. So let's go back. So 10 years, 150 plus cars, right? Moving in. So the thought is the wheels are thinking now. They're spinning like, okay, we can roll into this. Let's do something else. The second year. What was the second year? And what were some other thoughts? I mean, is it all open class? I mean, we'll talk about more about what class we have, but back then, was it all open, like an open class, or did you guys have actual classes for cars to enter in?
No, it was totally open.
Open.
And we, even to this day, we don't have classes.
Okay, perfect.
Because it's just when anywhere from 500 to 800 cars converge onto downtown,
it's kind of
you don't really know, other than what's pre-registered, you don't really know what cars you're going to have.
Good idea.
So we've just kind of concluded that we'll just do the top 20. And we let some of the sponsors pick the trophies and be the judges.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a good way of doing it. Like I said, it would be kind of hard, 800 plus cars, and then you're thinking, 20 so classes to fit everybody's, car itself. So okay, makes sense. Yeah. Open, top 20, perfect. Okay. Now, going into, like I said, we were talking a little bit before, but you're like putting this dream of a show into an area Taylor's a great place. The city works with everybody, and you. What was like I said? What was the dream? And I guess, where you're at now? Do you think that you can go any higher? Is there anything else you can looking to expand? I mean, it's kind of hard to beat, what you got going on now. But I mean, is this what you envisioned about the car show?
Oh, well, it's far exceeded our expectations. I mean, we never thought we'd have an event that would bring 800 cars from all over the South for a one-day show. But yeah, I don't really know how we can. We're kind of at our outside limits of how far we can block off streets.
You're kind of stretched, right? But on top of the car show, I mean, let's go ahead and feel free to mention. But there's other things. There's all the stores are open. You got bands, food, vendors. I mean, you want to share a little bit of that because it's not just car shows. It's a whole family town that is involved here, right?
Right. Yeah. It's all the downtown businesses are open, and they kind of have special sales and things going on for that. All the restaurants downtown typically sell out.
Wow.
Plus, we bring in all kinds of food vendors and craft vendors and guys selling Hot Wheels and T-shirts and then we have bands starting at 10 o'clock and we'll run bands until 3.
It's all day, right?
It's all day.
Wow.
It's an all day event from 10 to 4.
Wow. And that's the thing. I'm gonna share a flyer that we have and just talk about the event overall. All of our listeners, we give information on. This is one of the biggest shows around, in my opinion. Of course, there's others, but in this area for us here in Central Texas, I mean, like I said, everybody from the South are attending this show for all practical purposes because 800 cars, there's a car I guarantee you haven't seen ever at the show. And
we make sure of that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And when he says all these blocks, put your walking shoes on because it's a full day, and you probably won't see it all.
Yeah.
I mean, really, because being car guys, you're always running into somebody you haven't seen in a long time, so you're gonna have talk. You can reminisce about old times, and there's gonna be a lot of great times. Me and my family, my son, we always go when we can, of course. But it's a full day. The other thing, I believe one year it fell on Halloween.
It did.
Yeah, I think one year.
So we had a Halloween theme.
There was a Halloween theme, and there was you had
trunk and treat.
There you go. And every store had for the kids. You seen kids in their costumes, so it was beautiful. Yeah. And again, we're by. It's right by Halloween, so you might still see that over the weekend. But everybody loves the music. There's always a band playing, like you said, and. It's a full day, and if you want to get a good spot, if you're looking to participate, bring your car. Come early.
Yes,
come early.
Yeah. Main Street is the spot everybody wants to be parked on.
And what time do gates open? How soon can participants go in?
Well, they start blocking the streets at 6 a.m.
6 a.m.
So officially 7 a.m. is when we want to bring the first cars on.
7 a.m. Okay.
But there are always people there a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure they. Yeah, I know of a few. Right?
And somewhat significantly.
Yeah, they're
earlier.
like 4 a.m. before even nobody's downtown. They're already parking there. So yeah, but that's how big it is. And like I said, the real estate, the premier real estate is downtown Main Street. But again, you may branch off to maybe 2 blocks outside of Main Street.
Right. Yeah, 2 blocks on the west.
On the west.
1 block west and 1 block east, and then all the side streets.
They're going to be filled.
In those 3 north-south streets.
They're going to be filled. So anything else you want to share? Like so cars can come in at 7 a.m., start parking. Anything else that you have that you want to input in on the show as far as people who are looking to attend?
Yeah, if you want to pre-register, it always helps a little bit.
There you go. Okay, good.
But you don't have to.
You can register there at the day.
Register the day of. It's $25 cash
per card.
Per car.
Right.
So if you want to pile in 15 people in your car, the beauty of this show is 800 of our car buddies show up. They actually pay to participate, but the rest of the show is totally free for the public. So the spectators. And some of the best things that I get out of this show is it's a family event. So you've got dads with their kids and mom and dads with their kids, and
it is beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Like I said, it's a fun-filled event. Like I said, there's always vendors there. There's always a Hot Wheel guy there, or several. And then there's arts and crafts, women, of course, ladies and families, right? All the stores are open. If you have not been downtown Taylor, Texas, this would be a great time to come down. And the other thing, the food, right? The local food guys, right? There's barbecue. There's a couple of I guess you could say beer joints. I guess you could say bar and grill. Right.
There's a new a bar open, 2nd Street Station.
2nd Street Station. There you go. They're going to be open.
Louis Miller will always be open.
Of course, Louis Miller Barbecue. That's always number one.
There's a number of Mexican food restaurants downtown. There's a new little a grocery store on the corner of 2nd Main.
Really?
Haley's Grains.
Okay.
She'll have some grab-and-go stuff.
Nice.
And then up by the Heritage Square will be the food trucks.
Okay, awesome.
There'll be a little bit of everything for anybody.
They got the snow cones, they got the food, so yeah. So let's that's beautiful. Thank you, Jeff, for getting that info. But let's go into some things that like we were talking about earlier. Some things that a lot of people will rarely see. Some of your out of your shop, Jeff's Resurrections. Let's talk about what vehicles are you planning to display?
Well, this is actually the 70th anniversary of the Corvette this year. So we are planning to have a parking lot close to the Heritage Square that will be nothing but Corvettes.
Really?
Some of those Corvettes have just been to Dallas to the NCRS regionals where they have achieved the Top Flight Award.
Wow. And the Top Flight Award is?
It's National Corvette Restorers Society, and it is their judging criteria. So you have 3rd flight, 2nd flight, top flight.
Oh.
So a top flight has to be a score of 97 or higher. And it is, of all the judging that I've ever had cars at, the NCRS judging is the most
strict and everything.
Yes, they are. Wow. They are nitpicky down to the finish on nuts and bolts.
Is that right?
And the amount of glue holding pieces on.
Well, they get down dirty.
Oh yeah, they want to see brush marks on the paint. Not just beautiful. Their criteria is to try and make the cars exactly like they were when they left the factory.
Came off the floor, right? Protection.
Where a lot of the other restorations we do, our ethos is we want to try and make the cars as if the guys on the line had all the time in the world to make a perfect car.
Oh, that's
So we have to take that hat off and stick on the hat that
the manufacturer.
The guy was getting ready to go. The union guy was getting ready to go to the Corvette plant that morning, and his wife chewed him out because he didn't take out the trash.
So there's always
his truck was out of gas, and he goes in and he's like, I'm not going to give 100% today.
Slight imperfections, but to the point. Okay, well,
so they want all those imperfections built in.
So that's. In this, what did it actually score? You said so. 97 was top flight. What did this?
So this car scored a 98.4. One of the cars that'll be there, and that was its first top flight.
Really? Well, that's
its first flight judging.
Spectacular. So, and I guess you're right. 53 was the 70th year, right, of the Corvette. Right. Okay, awesome. So you're gonna have some Corvettes on display. So everybody check that out. So that's even a plus. So that's something that the Corvette enthusiasts. I know they're out there. They're out there. They're everywhere. Go check out the Heritage Square. That's the pavilion there, right off Main Street.
Right.
That's kind of the north side of the event, right? It's kind of the north.
Yes, it's on the north end of the event, right over by City Hall.
Perfect. So, and anything else that you guys plan to display? I know you always have something, that's not normally. You'll see something that's European or something that's.
Yeah, we may have a couple interesting cars. I don't want to give it all away.
I got you. Yeah.
We're going to have a potentially a very, very old car, like 120 years old.
Wow, we're talking like the beginning of.
This car is so old that it doesn't have a steering wheel; it has a tiller, and it's a hand crank.
Woo! Ooh, okay, that's a plus that I don't. Yeah. So everybody go check this car out. So this is gonna be a surprise for everybody because this ought to be like a crowd pleaser, right?
Right.
Crowd pleaser. Are these cars? Are they going to be part of the event? Are they going to be in the judging? Are they going to be able to be judged in this particular car show?
No, these special cars that are that I've invited,
Gotcha.
That are a lot of them are our clients or friends of ours.
Gotcha. They're just
they're just there for display.
Gotcha. 10-4.
Yeah. The judging is for the general public.
Okay. There you go.
These guys are just nice enough to let me have their car displayed.
Yeah, display.
Because a lot of these cars are never seen by the public. They go to very specific shows and back into their collections.
And it makes sense. Like I said, some of these cars are probably worth every bit of,
Couple dollars.
Yeah, a couple dollars. A couple of dollars with a whole bunch of zeros behind it. So, makes sense. Okay, awesome. And that's great that, like you said, these gentlemen are your clients or friends, or they're bringing the cars down. Because, again, this show is, it's big. 150 cars first year. Now we're up to 800. So it's evolved and fantastic turnout. I think what brings people around, what we talked about, is the atmosphere of the event, the time of year. It's gonna be fantastic weather. And the people, the downtown areas. It's historic.
Right.
In a way, it's got a setting in that retrospect. So
it just the show has a really good vibe to it.
Right.
There's a lot of enthusiasm and people are just having a good time.
I love it. So with that being said, everybody, this coming weekend, October 28th, 2023, Taylor, Texas, Main Street Car Show. Now, with us talking about the car show, now, if you don't mind, we'll go into your business, right?
Sure.
People know you. You're internationally known. If we want to go that route, you've done a lot of cars internationally. You've done complete restorations of exotics. I guess you could say, right? But for somebody who doesn't know Jeff Schneider and Jeff's Resurrection, can you share a little bit more what you do at your shop?
Sure. So we're a full service restoration shop. We don't specialize in any particular kind of car. And I think it makes us better restorers because of that, because we have to do the research.
You got to go find,
and we take our work very, very seriously.
Dedicated.
Some of our restorations are well over 2,000 hours.
Wow.
And when we restore a car, it's completely taken apart, and every nut and bolt is researched as to its finish. And it's refinished in the proper finish, whether it's chrome or cad or black oxide or copper or painted or whatever it might be. And then every component is researched and torn apart to its component finishes. And then it's all sub-assemblies and then bigger sub-assemblies and then, final assembly of the car.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, and people who are familiar, complete restoration is not. It's not something that just anybody can do.
No, it's not something for the faint of heart.
Let's just be honest.
And people that don't have patience.
There you go.
This job will teach you patience for sure.
That's the thing, because again, you got to find research. It might not be something that's produced. You might have to. I'm sure there's a ton of stuff you can go into, but overall, 2,000 plus hours. But you guys do everything. Literally paint.
Right.
We do everything.
We do all the disassembly. We do all the subassembly. We send out basically plating, and engine machine work, but that's done locally. And we have a really good guy on our team, Glenn's Machine.
Who
does all that.
There you go.
Sometimes he builds the engine. Sometimes we build them ourselves.
Shout out to Glenn.
But regardless, they all go on a run stand. They're run in before they go in the car.
And it's locally, by the way.
That's right.
So everything else, like tear down, and then of course the build, right? That's a tedious.
All the metal work, all the paint work is done in house. All the reassembly is done in house.
There you go.
A lot of the trim is done in house.
Really, wow. It's great that you're one stop shop. For all practical purposes, other than engine machining, right? Just the machining part. But other than that, people. Jeff was a body paint guy. That was
Yeah, this is always a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I'm actually a licensed funeral director.
I know you were. I remember.
So we're working on different kinds of bodies now.
You're the yeah. There you go. It's a good point. Yeah, a mortician and shit. Because I remember your family.
Right, third generation.
Third generation. So go ahead. This is a hobby, by the way, but a fantastic turn into a fantastic shop that you turn out beautiful stuff. By the way, if you don't have time. Go. You got a Facebook page, Jeff's Resurrection.
We do.
And of course,
and a web page.
And a web page. And also, I forgot to mention, but Main Street Car Show also has a Facebook page. By the way, go check it out. But going back to the restoration, right, in the company. Over the time, you've done plenty of cars, and I know that there's those. Glenn mentioned it before, like these awards that you've won for these restorations. What was the most prestigious one that you can recall? I'm sure there's many, but what car, what award was it? I mean, what was the biggest? There's probably.
I think we're still striving to achieve that one.
Well, that's a good answer, by the way.
Yeah, we've been privileged to be able to show at a lot of different places. You know, the Corvette NCRS. We've had a dozen cars at Pebble Beach.
That's one.
We've had nearly a dozen cars at Amelia Island. In both those places, We've never won Best in Show, but we've won our class.
Gotcha.
And a lot of other shows, McCacken in Chicago.
Those are like invitations.
Muscle Car Nationals. These are all invitation-only shows that not only do we participate, but we participate at a very high level.
Of course.
And win our class.
So, when we spoke before, there's some of these awards, you're like, I've heard of that somewhere in like this magazine like decades ago, but I never recall. But there's so many, and there was the Bizzarati, because that's the one I remember. That was
Bizzarini.
Bizzarini. I'm sorry, Bizzarati. Right. Totally pushed that up. Bizzarini. That was like a unique car, right? I mean,
very unique.
Very unique.
Yeah,
and that was a European car, wasn't it?
Yes. So Bizzarini is a really cool car. If you Google it, it was a 5300 Strata. So it was a handmade. The chassis is kind of, it's a steel floor, but all tube chassis, and handmade aluminum body.
Wow.
But they ran small block Chevys with Muncie 4-speeds and Jag rear end.
Lightweight car.
Very lightweight.
Yeah.
I mean, the aluminum body is 40 thousandths aluminum. So you breathe on this body and you dent it. All Connolly leather, Connolly supplied the leather.
Wow.
And we restored one a few years ago, and it won the Italiano Concorso last year.
That's what it was.
So big. That was a big win. Yeah.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
And that car, by the way, Google that. Bizzarini. It is.
It won its class. This car didn't, but Bizzarini won their class at Le Mans a couple of years. Wow. It has 50-50 weight distribution. So on a small block Chevy, the distributor's in the back on a 327. There's a rectangular panel on the top of the dash on a Bizzarini Strata. You take that panel off, and then you access the distributor.
Oh, really?
You are wearing, not only are you wearing the tranny and the bell housing inside the car, you are wearing the last two cylinders of the engine.
I'm telling you, you're giving it a little bit more oomph. All right. Well, so I mean, there's a lot of detailed information about that car. Like I said, it's again, that's probably just one of many of your cars that you can see. I mean, I can go on, because like I said, I share information from going through Glenn, from you, or get talk about. But I've seen some of the stuff. I've seen the work. I've been to your shop. Hands down, always professional, clean. It's probably one of the cleanest shops I've ever seen.
Oh,
it has
thanks.
to be. It has to be. I mean, I'm sure you get clients from all over. So, but hands down, some of your work is top of line, top tier. Is there anything that you have like currently now that you can discuss? That's something that's going to be popular here in the next couple of years when you guys get wrapped up.
Well, currently we're showing 2 cars, well 3 cars this year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh wow,
the '63 Corvette is at the museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Oh yeah, that's
our second to have there. We're really, really proud that we've been invited to have some of our work there.
Awesome, yeah. That's
in the Corvette world, that's a pretty big deal.
That's a big deal. Yeah, like I said, Corvette guys are out there.
Yeah.
You'll know how big of a deal that is, right?
We're about to show for the first time a 66 XKE coupe that we've done really well with XKEs in the past. This
XKEs, is that
Jaguar XKE.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect.
The car Enzo Ferrari thought was the most beautiful car built in 1960, end of 61 when they came out.
Jags.
Yeah.
That's a compliment from Enzo, right?
We've got a 32 Packard 900 Roadster.
Oh, wow.
That is getting ready to go to Hilton Head. I would love to have it at the show this weekend, but it is actually going into a transport on Sunday.
Is that right?
So I don't feel like staying up after being up at 3 o'clock for the car to get the car show going.
Yeah.
Have to stay up all night to get another car ready to go in the truck.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see that one soon. Maybe maybe.
Yeah, we will.
Magazines or something, right?
It is an absolute gorgeous car. It's one of the prettiest.
32 Packard, huh?
32 Packard.
Wow.
900. Yeah, it was.
Beautiful.
It's gorgeous.
That's the kind of cars we're talking about here.
It won its class at Keels and Wheels in Houston this year in May. Wow. That was our first show.
Nice, man. See some of those events. People who are in the in that automotive world, right? The I wouldn't say the car shows, but they're a high end car show, right? Where they got prestige judging and stuff like that. That's stuff that you're like. Okay, a lot of us are not familiar with, including myself. I'll be honest with you, right? So, but they're out there. I mean, there's probably shows from the East Coast to the West Coast, right?
Right.
I mean, in this level, right? Here in the U.S., not even just like probably in international too, right?
There is.
Yeah. So, and that's the level cars that he restores. And again, if you ever get a chance, look up Jeff's Resurrection on Facebook and his home webpage. And I'm sure you can see the level. Outside of that, Jeff, we talked about your business, the car show. Anything else that you have your hands in that you're like you do? People get to know. Like, let's get to know Jeff. What else do you enjoy doing? I know there's other things that you enjoy doing. Has to be right that outside of the automotive world.
I don't know. The car world keeps me pretty busy.
Huh? It's not like one that you're going to take a day off. I'm sure, but
I'm not a golfer, or fisher, or hunter.
Gotcha. Well, like I said, people just like to know the gentleman, right? Jeff Snyder from Taylor, Texas, including myself. Like I said, we talked a little bit earlier. You're from Taylor. I'm from Taylor. We know a lot of the same folks, right? We grew up around the same community, and there's a lot of car enthusiasts around our area, right? And anytime there's a car show of any type, we're going to support it, right? We're always there one way or another, right? And going back to this is some of the episodes, going back to Speedy's Garage, right back in right there in Taylor, that was where a lot of us hung out. Me as a kid, and a lot of the older gentlemen like Fernando, my uncle, and yourself, and all the guys from Taylor, Mercury. Ricky Jones, all those cats, right? So that's what we came from, and that's what we love, and that's what we like to do. And again, bringing the car show to this level, man, it's like that's the best thing in the world, right? For a lot of us, right?
Right.
That's what we look forward to every year. A lot of us, and myself, and a lot of other guys. Hey, every year it's like this time of year, it's car show, right? So it's fun, and do you mind sharing a little bit about this? Is what we ask pretty much all of our guests. What was the first car you owned that got you into cars, I guess you could say? What was the first car that you got into?
My first car wasn't a car. It was actually a 76 Chevy van.
Ah, yes. A van. It wasn't a car. It was 4 wheels, but it was a van.
It was kind of at the end of the whole van craze, but
that was the thing.
It was something that I thought, God, that looks pretty cool, and I can learn how to do all this stuff.
So
because before that, when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I would ride my bike down to Speedy's garage.
Ride Billy and all that.
You know, the old Spiegel grocery store building. And those guys, you know, it took a little while to let me get in the door. And, you know, and you'd hang out. And a couple years later, they might let you help do stuff. And,
right. Yeah, that's fun.
A couple years ago, Reggie Hill found a picture of him and I
seen
working
that
on
picture.
a car. And here's me, you know, at
seen that
16
picture.
years old, sanding on the...
You're in the background, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I seen that picture on Facebook. So that was the time, and that was about what, 80?
Around 1980, yeah, 80, 82.
Yeah. So when you got into doing body work, is that what kind of sparked your interest and just kind of learned to do some custom things? And
yeah, well, the van was it was originally from Pennsylvania, so it was just totally rusted out.
Oh, okay.
And when I started, I didn't have a welder, so you know things got fiberglassed up. J.C. Whitney was popular, so it had J.C. Whitney flares on it. And you know, I learned how to do upholstery because I redid the upholstery inside of it, and rebuilt the motor in it, and it was just a great learning tool, yeah. And that turned into, it was a talked about van across town. Like I said, my uncle talked about it. Oh yeah.
So what was some of the features on that van? I mean, it was cruiser. You got you around town.
Yeah. So it had ET slot mags, and it was slightly lowered.
Oh yes.
Had G60s on the front and N60s on the back.
Oh yes.
I think big fat tires on the back.
Big fat tire in the rear.
You know, flared fenders.
So you had the fiberglass going. You had the flares going.
Right,
on.
and the door, it didn't have a sliding door, and on the side it was actually hinged at the top, and so it was like a gull-wing door.
Nice, really.
When I bought it, that was what was kind of cool about it. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody still makes those. So long before the internet, I found the guys that still make those doors.
Is that right?
And bought another one.
So you did
and had it truck freighted, and I did the back door.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, that's been talked about. Like I said, yeah, Jeff had that van, and my uncle described it as some unusual doors. He didn't describe it as gold, but but obviously makes sense if they just kind of hinged upwards, right? That was different. It was different. Nobody seen that around here. I mean,
no,
right? Yeah,
no, it was totally unique.
What after that car? You know, of course, you're still in the automotive, hanging out at Speedy's. You know, because a lot of people ran through Speedy's, right? And including myself. You know, I didn't do no work. I was way younger, but you know, you seen everybody get their cars built up. Sidney Blue and a lot of other guys. I think Bobby B Tech had one of his 56s in there,
Right.
And then I think Billy also had an Angler. Maybe
he had an Angler, and he had a 34.
He had a 34, and so we seen those cars come out, and when they came out, they were like something that you didn't see around where we were from, right? That was like,
that's right.
And Reggie got a massive collection now, by the way, Reggie Hill. But coming after that, you still continue to kind of go on the automotive side, right? You got some other vehicles, hot rod, cruise. Everybody cruised around Taylor. What were some of the other vehicles you had?
I had a Riviera, 64 Riviera.
Oh, really? Did you really?
I did, yeah.
Ooh, those are fun.
Yeah, redid that car. Part of it down at Speedy's and part of it at my house.
Is that right?
At my parents' house.
Nice. 64 Riviera. I didn't know you had
those. Those are cool cars.
Those are cool cars, man. Those are nice.
Yeah. Torque monsters.
Oh, that had like a big 455 in them or something?
Those were the 401 or 425, I think.
Gotcha. Big boys. I mean, big cubic inch for that size car.
Yeah, very innovative cars. I mean, the door panels bolted on those cars. Ooh, there was some engineering features on that generation of Riviera that was really neat.
Yeah,
big.
And the ones that had the light, that was like a
65 had the clamshell headlights.
Those are unique too, by the way. Those are hard to find. Buick. Again, this is an era when you're getting into the scene. Of course, you've been in the scene, but your body. Did you do some body work and paint on that Rivy any?
Oh yeah, I did all the body work.
Did you really?
Yeah, resprayed it in lacquer.
Oh, that was the thing. You get a good, nice, deep finish, right? Lacquer finish, right?
And then the next car I did for myself was a 76 Corvette.
Nice.
In lacquer, silver.
Silver.
So that was my first test. Is all right. Am I going to be any decent in paint? Because silver, those high metallics are really difficult to spray. You got to lay it out just right.
That's right.
Really pay attention to how you spray and have good technique.
Well, that's the learning curve, right? And
that's right.
You did well. Did you have you painted any cars around local? I mean, let's say back in that time, back when you're in the '80s, did you do anybody else's car or anything?
I think we did a few, but I can't remember whose they were.
Yeah, I just asked that because again, through the years, you hear how good paint and body guy you were, and of course now you of course you're doing immaculate work on high end stuff, but I just thought to ask the question because over the years you always hear people like go see Jeff. Of course, if he's free, because he's always a busy man. But
I always have time to visit with people.
Of course, yeah, I love it. Like especially all the locals, right? But
that's right.
At the end of the day, it comes down to the history, right? You've always been in the cars. I guess a lot of us here from the local area of Central Texas, you always there's always I wouldn't say a mentor, but there's always somebody like, hey, they got me. This is what I enjoy doing. I've seen those guys. I learned, like myself, it was always, my dad's always been in the cars, so I always picked up a lot from my dad. But growing up, I grew up with, B-Tech and Mercury, and my uncle was always into hot rods, back in the day. He had his old 55.
Right.
Funny story you heard earlier, right? Cruise around the 55. Didn't have no back seat. Y'all literally put a
beanbag chair.
Beanbag chair back
I took the beanbag chair out of my van and threw it in the back seat, and that was the back seat for cruising in the 55.
That was the time, and that's what you did, and that's fun. That's the good stories, man. And
we had good times.
I'm gonna get my uncle in there, man. I'm a Fernando, man, coming for you. But yeah, so like those stories are something that that's what we enjoy hearing. A lot of people they forget about it, but this is why we do the show, like to talk about like I said, me was the street cars. Fernando and Billy, they're into the street rides, right? They used to go to the Nationals up in Oklahoma. And my uncle was telling me that they weren't called car shows back there; they were called rod runs.
Right.
There were rod runs, and it was a car show. But now you don't hear about the rod runs no more because again, it's. I don't know if it's just to do with a different generation, but car shows are now what's taking place, which is fine because, again, that's what brings everybody together. It doesn't matter what it is. Like I said, when you go to Taylor, you're always going to see a different car. You're never going to see one car that you've seen the previous year. I mean, that's a fact. But overall, like I said, the fun thing about the car scene is that everybody knows each other, or somebody who has a family member who has a car. It's always what brings, to me, everybody brings it together, right? Is the cars.
It's the glue that puts us all together.
That's a good way to put it. That's exactly right. And that's what I've seen over the years, like I said. But I do like to talk about a little bit more about, if you will, about when you first did that van. I mean, obviously you're stopping by Speedies, but you were always in the cars, right? I mean, you're always in the automobiles. Overall, that painting bodies is what got you. I mean, I guess you rebuild engines. You've done upholstery. I didn't know you did upholstery actually. Did you do that a lot back then too?
No. I try and stay away from the sewing machine.
I would say, was it fun?
There's other guys that are way better than me. I don't need to learn everything.
Well, upholstery is an art in itself. Like I said,
absolutely,
that's something like yeah, I can see how I can totally mess something up here. But I mean, you learn. You pretty much did. You put your hands in everything.
Right, you have to.
To learn.
To be a good restorer, you have to know at least the basics of everything.
Gotcha. Well, that makes total sense, right? That makes total sense. You have to have your hand in everything to know what it takes and what detail. And well, I mean, you got somebody who especially. Do you guys do that in house?
What's that?
Yeah, upholstery. Upholstery?
We do some upholstery in house, and then we've got a couple of guys in San Antonio that if we have something one-off that we need to do, that a lot of times they'll do.
Makes sense.
That are extremely talented.
Gotcha.
I mean, I can't hardly draw a straight line, and these guys are stitching straight lines. And sometimes I go down there and tell them, well, what's your thread count on your machine? Because this needs to be this thread count this time or this thread count.
Is that right?
Right, because sometimes the level of detail comes down to, on the upholstery,
the stitching,
the thread count of the stitching, or the texture of the of the upholstery. So I get a lot into that part of the upholstery.
Wow.
2 of the pre-war cars that we have finished in the last couple of years had very unique upholstery.
Oh, really?
And I like to, when I'm starting on a car that I've not restored before, I try and find somewhere in the country, hopefully, a couple examples that I can go look at that are absolutely original. So that way we can take pictures. I know exactly what the upholstery is supposed to look like. I know exactly what the finish is in the engine compartment. You know, exactly what the details of the chassis and all this stuff.
Wow, that's detailed, man. Gotta be.
The last 2 pre-war cars we've done, the 32 Packard, it took me 6 months to find somebody that could do this wrinkled leather, or crushed leather actually what Packard called it.
Is that right?
The only guys I could find in the country or in the world is Connolly Leather in the UK.
Is that right?
So they embossed that leather with hand embossed it, and if you look at the back of the hides, it's all laid out in a 1-foot grid. So that embossing is done 1 square foot at a time.
Oh my God!
And some of these hides are, these hides are massive.
Oh yeah.
Some of them are probably over 15 square feet.
Wow. One big old.
And the other one that we did, a 35 Auburn Speedster that was at the show a couple years ago, maroon car. The interior in it was very unique. And I found a guy in Minnesota that had an original upholstery that he'd taken out of a car.
Is that right?
And said, well, I'm not going to ship it to you, but if you want to come look at it, you're welcome to come look at it. So I call the owner up and I say, hey, I need to go to Minnesota and look at this upholstery that's in this box. And he goes, all right, well, do what you got to do.
Oh, hey.
So I took pictures and he gave me a little tiny sample of the leather. Well, I found some guys in Italy that had the stamping plates, embossing plates.
Oh, really?
So we had the leather stamped in Italy for this car.
Nice.
And it's the only Auburn that's ever been done in the correct leather. And the Packard is the only Packard that's ever been done in the crushed leather. So it's those little details that's what I love doing, just as much as doing the paint and the metalwork. And I like coming up with all these tiny little details that other restorers have kind of overlooked or thought that was just a bridge too far.
Right. So I mean that when you're talking earlier, we'll go back, when you're talking about those details about a restoration, that's your effort. That's literally the ends that you take, either to travel to Minnesota or find these dyes in Italy, wherever, right? Wow. So that's even more detail, because like I said, you go into just not even the nuts and bolts, but we're talking about details in the print of the interior. I mean,
textures and finishes and little
that's
details.
What wins awards. I mean,
that's right. That's what makes your stuff stand out from everyone else's. And it's not just in the restoration world.
Right.
It's in the street rod and
of course
and all that stuff too. It's the car that's totally unique and stands out. That's the one that usually gets recognized. Not always, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, but that one little thing that flashes is somebody like, that's different, right? You're right. I mean, that's a good point. That's a very, very, very good point. It's just like, when you said patience, it's like, wow. I mean, because like I said, sometimes you can take, this car could be waiting on next for 6 months.
Right.
I mean, that's what you, okay, that's what the
those 2 upholstery jobs, that was a 6 or 8 month research project.
Just the researching.
Calling people, getting samples.
I mean, that's an effort. I mean, still behind it, but still
sending people little gifts to to get stuff done in a timely manner.
Roll up here. Do me a little favor here. It goes, you gotta do
what can I do for you?
Yeah, exactly.
Before for you to do this
for me. It all works out as long as you get the project done in a nice timely fashion, if you will.
Right.
But like I said, hours is one thing, but like I said, you're not going to put a restoration card, and it's not going to be. I mean, we're talking years. I mean,
sometimes.
Yeah.
We try and complete a restoration in somewhere between 18 and 24 months, but sometimes it's just not possible.
It's not possible, yeah.
And a lot of times we may have a car on the schedule to get started, but a year before it's even hit the door, or 6 months before it's even hit the door,
right?
I'm already working, accumulating parts.
Yeah, you're already working, yeah.
We're about to start restoring our 3rd GT40 street car.
Oh, that's another.
Well, they only built 12 of those.
Yeah, a streetcar, man.
Streetcar.
Yeah.
So the street trim, not the race ones.
Okay.
And
What year is this again?
1966.
That was a 289 in there, wasn't it?
289. Yeah. They were before the big blocks. So everything has to be researched because those cars were absolutely handmade.
Handmade.
And there's parts that those cars were assembled, even though they're a Ford, they were actually built in England outside of Heathrow Airport.
Is that right?
Right. And
well, because they're built to compete in Le Mans. And
that's right. They won Le Mans.
Yeah. So, okay, makes sense.
But they built 12 street cars to qualify, and they all have luggage boxes. They all have a spare. Well, all this stuff, almost I don't know of but maybe 2 of the street cars or 3 that are still mostly street cars. The rest of them have all been turned into race cars.
And how can you find the parts?
Well, I've literally been all kinds of places in the States. I've looked at a car in England.
Yeah.
I've looked at cars everywhere to come up with all the little details. And along the way, I've found that this guy has some drawings for this, or he may have example where I can take pictures. So we've remade a bunch of parts.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's what you got to do.
And some of the stuff that we've remade don't exist anywhere else.
I know. Wow.
And a guy was nice enough to let me take copies of a bunch of engineered drawings.
Oh, nice.
So I have engineering drawings of some of these very unique pieces that go on that car.
Oh, wow.
That we can reproduce for the cars that we restore.
Man,
that don't exist.
They don't exist. Even the race cars were rare. They had a number of them, but the street cars, that's
super rare.
Super rare.
And we've restored. This is our third one,
right?
So we've become kind of the GT40 streetcar specialist.
Awesome. There you go. Anybody's.
We've had the insert on the upholstery is very specific.
Is that right?
And I had a guy in the UK make that for us. Ooh. So I have enough upholstery. I can do those 12 cars probably about 4 times over.
Nice.
But that's what it took to be able to get it.
Well, like I said, you got the repertoire, if you will, to go to. Like I said, I think I seen one that you guys finished about 2-3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. It was one that was when I went to your shop. It was getting wrapped up, I believe. Like I said, it had been 3 or 4 years ago. What was the most recent one you guys did? Was it about that time frame? The GT.
No, we've done in the last 4 years. We've had 3 in the shop.
Okay. Yeah, well, it was one of those.
5 years.
That's
and I think 3 or 4 years ago we had one of them at the car show.
I think I do remember that one.
It was a blue metallic. It was the only one painted that color. And then we had the 2nd generation Ford GT and the 3rd generation Ford GT.
Was one of those a light blue one? Was there a light blue one? No, maybe.
Yeah, a light, kind of a light medium blue.
Light medium blue.
That was the 66. Okay, that was the road car.
Okay.
And then a white generation 2.
That was about 2-3 years ago, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think I do recall that.
And it was funny to see those in there because nobody knew what they were looking at. And they're like, "Oh, is this a kit?" Yeah, it's a kit.
You can hear them like, "Oh my God, that's like a $2 million car."
But it's the only time that I have ever been at any show anywhere where all 3 generations are together.
That's
so
here
really
in Taylor,
cool
Texas.
To be able to put that together.
In Taylor, Texas, by the way. Yeah, that is cool. That is cool. And again, those are $2 million plus cars. I'm assuming right there. Yeah. So. Right there, right? Jeff's Resurrection. Now, going on top of that, right, and going to the effort into this particular streetcar, like I said, there's going to be one-offs. You're going to have to produce them. Beautiful thing, you got the gentleman gave you the engineering drawings, which is going to help when you have to produce some things. What were some other distinct features? It's probably pretty obvious between a race and a street, other than the luggage rack. They did have different interior, probably had full interior.
Right, yeah. The most unique feature that the race cars had is instead of the insert on the seats, the padding was very, very minimal.
Minimal, yeah.
It had a series of brass eyelets for ventilation in the seats.
Oh, really? Oh,
and the road seats had a little bit more padding, and then they had this kind of a herringbone or a pattern similar to what the Mustangs had in like '68.
Wow.
but it's perforated.
Really?
Yeah, and the perforation is a very specific pattern. So,
you gotta get deep.
so again, a guy outside of Atlanta had a mostly original road car, and he was very, very private gentleman. I spent 6 months and had 2 or 3 directions to have to go to before I could invite myself to see his cars.
Is that right?
You know, and he's like, well, you can only come in on a Saturday morning, and you can't stay for more than 2 hours.
Oh, crap, man.
Well, you know,
specific.
you can't bring anybody with you. But he allowed me to take pictures of his car.
Okay.
So I was able to document the perforation and the print.
Nice.
And a lot of the other little details, because our first road car we did had been made into a race car probably in about 1978.
Oh, really?
And it's actually known as the winningest GT40 in the modern era.
Is that right?
So
it's a street car, but they turned a race car to be one of the winningest.
Right. So it never raced Le Mans in anger in the day, but it's actually raced at Le Mans a dozen times.
Is that right?
And it's raced at Goodwood, and it's raced at tracks in America. This car, when we were taking it apart, the monocoque of the tub where the fuel cells go, which are just big bladders, was full of all kinds of rocks. So, and we have a collection of rocks from literally all over the world.
So was it for like ballast or something?
No, it was rocks from when the car ran off the track and went into the runoff lanes and it picked up rocks.
It had soil and rocks from different countries,
from different countries and tracks all over the world.
Okay, so it's I see. Well, hey, you got that collection? Hey, there's a.
I do, yeah. We're going to put them in some kind of a glass trophy and give it to the owner, but I haven't quite figured out what I want to put on the trophy yet.
That's funny. Well, like I said, that's a tidbit of history there, right?
That's right.
Oh man.
But I went and looked at about 6 different GT40s that were known to have been road cars.
Okay.
And each one kind of gave me a few more little details. None of them were perfect, and in my interpretation.
Right.
And some of them had been pseudo re-restored. And we kind of, you just have to kind of look at each one and say, all right, well, which one of the details on this are what we believe to be correct?
Correct.
And that's why when we restore cars, I don't just go look at what everybody else is doing. I want to look at the original cars because they're the ones that are going to give me the detail that's going to make our car the most authentic. Because there's a lot of cars that were restored in the in the 80s and 90s that participated in, let's say, Pebble Beach, were way over restored. And kind of like street rods.
Right.
The frames looked like they were dipped in paint. There was no details with the welds, and there's no dye marks, and all that stuff is finally coming back around to where, and some of it's because some of us, like our shop, don't just slick everything out. We want absolutely beautiful slick paint on the outside, but when you open the door or lift the bonnet, I want you to see every spot weld. I want you to see all the hand weld work. The firewall. We want to see all the dye marks of all the panels.
That's authentic.
Because it gives it a level of detail, and that's the way that they were done at the factory.
Gotcha.
They didn't load all that stuff up with primer. And fill
it, smooth it. Yeah. Makes sense. Like, see, from the 80s and 90s, actually, that's what they did. They over restored. Like, I'm not seeing it, but I still want it, slicked, whatever, right?
Right.
So to your point, well, I mean, it's. And again, the judging's eyes or whatever this car's, show is going to, right? That's what the judges look for, right? That's what they're looking for. And
judging is very subjective, and it's like restoring cars are very subjective. Right. Everybody has their own way of doing
things. Yeah.
I like all that detail. I like to see all the dye marks and the spot welds, and if it's the piece is cast, I want to see all the cast flashing. And if it's a cast piece that was machined, I want to see the machine bit, and I want it to look machined, and because it gives it texture.
Texture, right.
And it just, you might have 2 cars sitting side by side, and the car that has that level of detail just stands out from everybody else.
Yeah. And it's one thing, too, to people might look like, hey, I open a door or crack open a hood, and they look at the fire. You know, like I said, talk about the bolts and the finish. Is like, yeah, you don't have to be shiny and blingy. I mean, if it's way it came from factory, 'cause like I said, that dull finish, if you will, like over, that looks beautiful if it's done right. I mean, if it's done with some accents, the way it was from factory. It's another thing to do it where it's overkill. I mean, I understand like a true show car is one thing,
right?
But like a restoration is another. I mean, restoration is a different. Show cars can have so much. I've seen some show cars. I mean, you've seen plenty of show cars, right? That show cars are like, wow. I mean, those are beautiful, but like sometimes like, wow, that's. I wouldn't have thought about fringing this or making a hidden door here. Okay, it's beautiful in the show car world, but for restoration, it's a little different.
It's a different kind of art.
Different kind of art. There you go. Good point. Different kind of art. It turns people's wheels differently, right? But obviously you're staying pretty busy, so that's obviously you're getting recognized, and you get customers from all over the world, pretty much. Right. So Jeff's Resurrection right here in Taylor, Texas. That's again, I'm gonna repeat. You can go to the website, see their work. I can only speak so much about what comes out of the shop, and it is jaw dropping, right? So, with that being said, Jeff, again, we can talk about the car show. We talked about the car show. We talked about your shop. Anything else you want to add as far as anything additional that people might need to know about the car show, or anything as far as do you mind dropping some of your phone number, or I could put a link to your webpage? Sure, that'd be fine on the podcast link. But is there anything you want to add about the car show that people may need to know if they do plan on coming Saturday morning?
Yeah, just bring a hat, because we don't know what the weather's going to quite do. It looks like it's going to be another beautiful day, but
I think it's too early to tell.
Be prepared. You might need a jacket in the morning, but. Once the sun comes out, we don't need any burned noses.
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
Make sure you bring a hat.
A hat and some suntan lotion. But good point. So the weather's it's upcoming to Saturday. I think it is open, but like I said, we are in Texas, so things have changed. But like I said, I think you're right. I think it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be kind of cool in the morning, but I think it's going to be a very, very nice day. We all learned a lesson. I think 3 years ago, or maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was like in the 30s one time. It was one time, but the past few years it's been definitely in the 80s, and I think one year might have been in the 90s.
And one year we contemplated what we would do if we had to cancel the event because of rain, because the night before we had a torrential downpour, and about 3 o'clock it just blew through, and it ended up being a beautiful day.
Yeah, so I mean, even rain or shine, I mean, it's gonna be out there. I mean, but I don't foresee any rain coming this way. It's going to be a beautiful day. Right. But yeah, good point. Bring a hat. Bring a hat, everybody.
And if not, I'm sure we have some people that'll sell you a hat.
Yeah. There'll be plenty.
We'll have some hats for sale.
Plenty of hats for sale. Well, cool, man. With that being said, I do appreciate you coming on and sharing information about the upcoming car show and what you do at your shop, and, of course, a little brief history. Maybe... Again, we do all ask our guests if you would like, come back and just share like a post wrap up of the beautiful outcome of the event and how it turned out, and attendees and so forth. But
I'd be glad to do that.
Yeah, asking, we might get some other hot rodders in too. I mean, that'd be fun.
Excellent.
So again, with that being said, guys, October 28th, downtown Taylor, Texas. Main Street Car Show. Go to the Facebook page, Main Street Car Show, right?
Right.
And then, of course, I'll give a link to Jeff's Resurrection as well. Again, with that being said, appreciate it coming out, and we're going to wrap it up this week. Until next time, guys, stay tuned. We'll get more information with additional guests that are planning to coming on soon. So you guys stay tuned. Jeff, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome, buddy. Say peace out, guys. Be good.